Hey everyone, Dr. Julie Alig with JLA Analytics, jumping on here with a quick data nugget. So, I've been asked in the past pretty frequently, how did you, Julie, get into data analytics? And what's the best way for, and insert here, my daughter, my son, my colleague who wants to switch careers or switch industries, what's the best way for them to get into data analytics as a profession themselves because they're really interested? And I just got this question again yesterday from a colleague, and I realized that I'm basically giving the same advice, and I figured this would be something that would be pretty helpful to more than just the few people who end up reaching out to me to ask me about this. So, the question I got yesterday was something along the lines of this. I'm trying to help someone who's got an undergraduate degree in business analytics, in information systems, in IT. And they're interested in getting a job in data analytics. But it seems like all the entry-level positions already want you to have experience. And so this person was saying this young professional is wondering whether or not, after graduating with their bachelor's degree, whether or not they need to go on and get a master's degree in order to be able to break into the profession. And they wanted to know what my thoughts were. So I'll be the first to say, always a great idea to get education, to get more training, to upskill yourself. You all know that's one of the services that I offer, right? I firmly believe in it. And I myself, I walk the walk. I just got done taking a class on linear programming to boost my skills, being able to do that sort of problem solving for my clients. But going from, for example, here, an undergraduate degree program right into a master's because you're not finding entry-level jobs, I think that's jumping the gun a little bit. I'm not convinced, and I responded back, I'm not convinced that this young person actually needs to go on right at this moment to get their master's degree. And here are a couple of my thoughts about how he or she might go about trying to break in, trying to get that first job. So, sharing them here with you. The first thing that I tell people is if they're talking about someone who's an undergraduate, I'll say, go to your career services. Those are people who their profession is helping people figure out what their skills are and how those skills match to different job opportunities and industries. Mine, your career services people, do everything you possibly can with them. Career services from my undergrad was immensely helpful when I was first starting out. And so really, go back to them and really use the resources that they make available for you all. The second thing I'll say is data analytics itself is a term that's thrown around by people pretty much every day without some real definition about what exactly data analytics means. If you've listened to any of my talks, if you've gone out and listened to some of the other professionals in this ecosystem that I point you to or that you found yourself, you'll see very quickly that what I call data analytics is very different from what someone else might call data analytics. So I would encourage you, my second suggestion is I would encourage you to really nail down what you mean, because analyzing data for a large bank or another large company in the financial services industry is going to look very different from doing data analytics for a pharmaceutical company or doing data analytics for a marketing agency. Those are all going to be very different uses of these same tools, right? So think about the tools as building blocks, Legos, and you can put these tools together in different ways to answer the questions that come up in different industries in their own way. So my second is really try to figure out what exactly you mean, and some of those job openings, right? What they mean by data analytics. And that's really going to help you also to land that job. The third piece of advice is informational interviews. Those have done so much for me in my career, even when I was in grad school, oh, so many moons ago. But informational interviews are really helpful. So find someone who's doing something that you think is really interesting and reach out. Ask them if you can buy them a coffee. If they're virtual, if they're across the country or maybe in a different country, ask them if you could book a 15-minute Zoom conversation with them. And everyone is super busy these days. I don't have to tell you all that. If you went the extra step to show that you're really committed to this and you don't want to take up too much of their time, actually say, these are the 3 or 4 questions that I'd like to discuss with you in a quick Zoom call. I would be most appreciative. Those informational interviews are really going to help you understand the philosophy and the outlook of that part of the data analytics industry. And then one thing that I learned actually when I was doing my interviews in Germany, in Stuttgart, for my field research, the last question that I always asked was, who else should I talk to about this? And so it's actually part of a qualitative research method, right? But what you want to do is you want to see who else in their network would be good for you to speak with, and so broaden out that way. So always when you have these kinds of informational interviews, your last question is, who else should I talk to about this? The fourth piece of advice that I can't recommend highly enough is start showing up at networking groups. All kinds of networking groups. They might be industry specific. They might be young professional networking groups. You all know I'm based here in Manchester, New Hampshire, and there is a group here under the aegis of the Manchester Chamber of Commerce, young professionals. And they get together for social events and different sorts of networking every couple of weeks. Something like that would also help you broaden your network and also find maybe what companies in your geographic region are potential targets for you to be looking for a job or maybe for an informational interview. And then when you ask them, who else should I talk to? Maybe they have someone else that you can talk to. And so it goes. But the networking groups, be it professional association-based networking groups or simply young professionals, 40 over 40 kind of networking groups, those are really going to be helpful. And then the fifth piece of advice I'll give is do some freelancing. There are a lot of gig job sites out there, right? Freelancing job sites. Go out there and do a couple of projects, right? Because this is a way to get around that conundrum that, okay, I want a job and I have skills, but the job posting says that I've never done this before. I've never had a job like this before, so I'm not qualified. But how do I get qualified if I'm not able to get hired? Yes. So go out, find a couple of small jobs, small gigs, small freelancing projects. Do those, do them. Get some good testimonials from the clients that you do these for. And then, Bob's your uncle, you've got some experience doing this sort of thing. You're also building up your testimonials. You've got some case studies for where you've employed different data analytics skills in the real world to help real clients achieve their goals or answer their questions or hit their milestones. And you can talk about those in those interviews that you have for the jobs you're going to be applying for, that you're going to be getting callbacks for, because you're totally going to rock this. I hope this was helpful. And if I have not mentioned something that's worked really well for you, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear it. I'm keeping track. Actually, I know you're totally surprised, right? I'm keeping track of all of these bits of advice so that when people reach out to me, or when I'm going to networking groups myself, or career information nights, like I'm doing in a couple of days out at University of New Hampshire, I've got a list of things that I can tell the students and the young professionals who come up to me and say, how do I get into the industry that you're in? How do I do what you do? Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.